Good morning, Greg, and thank you for joining us in the studio today.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Bit of a trek from North Wales, so I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. It's good to be here.
Yeah,
Um,
just come and
Bit
see
of a
the
full
Empire.
circle moment, isn't it? Because what, 2, 3 years ago we first met in a corner of a room in
2020,
Prosperity Network.
2021 that was.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and both sat in the back and just kind of hit it off, didn't we? And had a chat. And I think it was then sort of 2022 when we did the branding and the logo and everything and the website. So yeah, it's nice to now be here a few
Yeah.
years later doing a podcast.
But it's that fear of networking as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, I
And
think
just
so.
wanting to remember me hiding behind pop-up banners.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have that fear, don't they? And I think, I'm probably still like that. I do go to a lot of networking events, but I probably don't put myself out as much as I probably should. Do tend to sort of gravitate to friends who I know and have a bit of a catch up. So yeah, I think it is still a thing.
The power of networking as well. How much has being prosperity helped your business, do you think?
Yeah, massive. It's been everything for me. I mean, somebody messaged me yesterday asking about wanting to get into property. What should I do? And the first thing I always say is get educated and get into a network of like-minded people because, there's 5 years now and there's multiple times where, I probably wanted to give up, could have easily given up, but having those people around you that you can, surround yourself with one or two really good people and you can go to them for advice to kind of drag you through those moments. But then just the general network, the knowledge in that room and just the way that it's a very encouraging network. You don't feel embarrassed to kind of ask what would be the silly questions.
There's so many
Um,
people as well, which I didn't realise when I joined, and people will learn this as they do join, is that everybody's literally at a different level.
yeah,
And it's so important for people who are starting in property, do not compare yourself,
yeah.
with other people in the room because, everyone's at just different points and junctures,
Yeah, I mean,
different experiences.
I was thinking about that on the way over about the comparison thing. I think it's great being in a network and being surrounded by all these amazing people and you look up to people, but there is a danger of kind of looking over the fence and seeing what someone else is doing and the whole comparison thing. I think that can be really limiting for people. So I think, it's important, whilst it's important to look at what other people are doing and be inspired by what they're doing, I think comparing yourself is the wrong thing to do because everyone's built differently, everyone thinks differently, everyone's starting from a different position, whether it's financially or whatever. So no one person's journey will be the same as the next person's. And I
Yeah.
think the danger of comparing, yeah, it can be quite dangerous and limiting for someone's progression.
Yeah. So can you take me back in time, sort of maybe 5, 10 years? What was it that got you hooked into property? Where did you sort of first hear
Start.
about property development and what got you
Um,
excited?
Yeah, I think most people have got in the UK have got an interest in property. I think it's something that's spoken a lot about in, the economy and politics. It's a big topic. So I think in the UK we're surrounded by property chat. And obviously, there's all of the TV programs, Grand Designs, and, it's in your face. So I've always had an interest in property and I always thought, like most people, I would like to get into property, but I having absolutely no idea how people do it. I used to work with someone who, they had maybe 10 or 15 houses and I'd be like, how have they done that? Because the way I thought back then was you've got to save a 25% deposit. I was like, how are people doing that to build on scale? I thought it was for people with loads of money, millionaires already. But then obviously, so I worked in a company called Airbus for 17 years, and it was in 2020 when COVID hit that they had to make redundancies. And at that point, I was very fortunate that my job I wasn't personally at risk, but I saw that as an opportunity to potentially leave and then go and pursue something that I wanted to do. I never felt fully fulfilled in that job. I always felt like there was something else I could do, but I didn't know what. And I remember in lockdown, Danny started the free Zoom calls that is now Prosperity. And obviously they formally launched then in August. And I've been a member since August 2020. But it was that listening to those free Zoom calls, picking up little bits of information, reaching out to random people on LinkedIn, stalking them, asking them questions. And, I was very fortunate that people gave me that time, which is why now I think if people message me or ask me questions, I give that time because I was fortunate that I had it from people. Yeah, literally 2020, just put in for redundancy. Bit of a daunting time to do it because there was so much uncertainty in the world. But I just felt like if I didn't do it now, I probably wouldn't ever get that chance again.
How did your wife, Caris, feel about that?
Do you know what? She has supported me from the start. She has never doubted me, even probably at times where I've doubted what I'm doing, my ability. Even now still, she still pushes me and supports me. So yeah, so she was very instrumental in allowing me to do that, because I know it's not for everybody. I think, when you've got a mortgage, and at that time we had Imogen, who would have been 18 months. So you've got a lot of commitments. So for me to then turn around and say, I'm going to leave that job and I'm going to go and try and pursue this property thing that I know absolutely nothing about, for her to have that faith in me and to say, yeah, go for it, that was massive. And I still have that support today. And then, yeah, it was literally, I think I put in for the redundancy around maybe July or August time. So I'd probably been watching a couple of months of these Zoom calls and thought, oh, there's something in this. I can go and do it.
I can do this.
I can do it. Yeah. And how naive was I to think it'd be quick and easy?
Financial freedom in
Yeah,
6 hours.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I'm still waiting. And then, yeah, that was when I kind of launched into my first project, which was the chapel, which some listeners and viewers may already know about or may already seen through sort of socials. That was the first project that I got myself into, which naively took a lot of time and effort and money and pain. It was a long project, 3 years from start to end. Taught me so many lessons, not just the actual development side of it and the building construction side of it, but more the kind of mental toughness and resilience that you need. And I had that lesson very early on. I think a lot of people get into property and rightly probably start at the bottom of the kind of investment pyramid and start with simple buy-to-lets and kind of work up to those more complex full commercial to resi developments. And I just went straight in naively and had a very painful lesson early on. But I think that's kind of shaped me now and kind of helped me with the clarity on where I want to go, what I want to do, what I don't want to do. So yeah, that was kind of where it all started. And I eventually got the redundancy in December 2020. Got an email after having to kind of push it and force it through. I think it was like the end of November, saying that December the 21st, that's it, you're going. And I was kind of like, so I've been pushing it for months, really wanting it. And when I finally got the email to say it's confirmed, I was a bit like, wow,
Well,
okay, it's
yeah.
real. And I remember January the 1st, 2021, waking up thinking, what do I do? Like, what does being a full-time property investor look like? What does my day look like? What time am I supposed to get up? Do I just go and sit on my laptop from 9 till 5 because that's what I was conditioned to do, having worked in that environment for so long? I really, really struggled with that transition of being employed and being almost told what to do to then being completely on my own with no income, no property, and just a blank page of what do I do? So it
Lonely
was
space, isn't
really
it?
lonely, really lonely. And I think that again comes back to the power of a network or a good network around you. It's because just having those simple conversations over a coffee with someone or picking up the phone and asking them how their week is, and they ask you that, just being able to voice what you're doing helps get things out of your own head. Because I think the danger is you just sat with your own thoughts at your laptop and it gets on top very quick. So I think having those people around you who understand what it is that you're going through, and not just property, but I just think business in general.
Yeah, we touched on this earlier, didn't we? Just sort of discussing how tough it is to actually have a business.
Yeah.
Whether it's just a one-man band or a big company. It's the mental side. It's the stress. It's the time that you have to invest, the accountability to your clients, suppliers, etc., etc. It's
So many hats that you have to wear at the
yeah,
beginning, because at the beginning it is, I mean, most of the times it will just be you. And if you've never been in business, and for me, I'd been an employee all my life, I didn't really understand business. And there's so many elements to that. Just at a basic level, you've got your accounts. There's so much you have to pick up quickly.
yeah.
It's quite daunting all at once. So yeah, it's a tough process of learning, but that's the best way to learn, is just by getting stuck in and doing it.
And I guess that touches on mindset as well, doesn't it? Because again, if you're sat at home and you're thinking, I can't do this, I can't do this, you can easily talk yourself out of what your actual capabilities are.
Yeah, yeah, and there were several times, where I've spoke to a few people about it. I think it was like mid 2022 where I almost gave up. I was kind of 2 years in. I'd done a few bits. Some had gone well, some hadn't. And we were talking before about the financial strain that comes with building a business from scratch. I think people can like look at you now and think, oh, you might be doing well, but they don't see because most businesses take a good 3 to 5 years to get to any level of just being able to break even. Do you know what I mean? It's not in the realms of wealth, but just being able to sort of pay the bills and whatever. And it takes a lot more than you think. It takes a lot. It puts a lot of strain on you, and it puts a lot of strain on the household. You've got bills to pay. you want to go on holidays, you have to make a lot of sacrifices. I think people maybe sometimes blindly go into it thinking it's going to change their lives in 6 to 12 months. And that's what sells courses. But the reality is that isn't how it is. You can be active. I feel like I've been relatively active for 5 years and still feel like I've got nowhere near where, I would want to.
Which is mad, isn't it? When again from somebody looking in from the outside
Yeah.
in,
Yeah.
like in
People
networking,
think, oh, you're absolutely flying. And,
he's a millionaire.
yeah, yeah, absolutely not. I still pay myself less than I earned in my previous job, but it's a longer term play.
If you're signing up to like a really big deal, how do you deal with the financial pressure of that, knowing that you've like committed to
Mm,
large amounts?
yeah, I think that just comes with experience and your confidence in yourself growing. At the beginning, I think my first deal was, aside from the chapel, would have been like a 65 grand purchase of a little 2 bed terrace that ended up flipping. And I remember just being overwhelmed. I mean, there was that and there was a bungalow. I remember being overwhelmed with the sheer numbers of money that we were talking about, like a 65 grand purchase. And I think the bungalow was 220 or something. I'm just thinking, wow, I'm taking out a massive bridging loan to buy this, and I've got to pull some external finance in and put my own funds in. It's like a lot of money to buy some bricks and mortar, and thinking, what if it doesn't sell? Or what if this? What if that? But the more you get into it and the more you understand the process, even silly things like not fully understanding how the conveyancing process works at the start, like what comes next, what's the next bit, and when I get the keys, what do I do? It's quite overwhelming. Obviously, the more you do it, you become more comfortable with it. And I think then when you're buying bigger deals, it's the same process. The way you analyze a deal is exactly the same. It sounds really silly. It is just numbers on a sheet. It doesn't matter how many zeros are on it. The method of the money going in, the money you have to invest, the money that comes back out, the returns. I think the more experience you just get more comfortable with it, and you can see the process. You've proven that process to yourself. You understand the mechanics of how it works. You've got the right people in the right place to help, the right team around you. And I think it's then you don't really get overwhelmed with the numbers.
If you could go back in time now and just speak to yourself 5 years ago, would you do everything the same again, or would you give yourself a piece of different advice?
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it, when you look back retrospectively, because you would
Hindsight's great,
always
isn't it?
say maybe do things different, but then I think whatever path you've gone on has ultimately led to where you are. So I think I would probably still do the same things, because I think regardless of whether it went good or bad, I think even the bad, I think it's good to go through those experiences to take the lessons to then get to where you are, because I think it's impossible to get to any level of success without having had failures. So I probably wouldn't change anything, but the advice I'd probably give would be just kind of be a bit more easier on yourself, because it's very easy to kind of beat yourself up and say you should be doing more, you should be doing this, you're not doing enough. Just be a bit easy on yourself and kind of just to trust the process a little bit more, not kind of wanting everything now, understanding that it will take time, but as long as you're doing the right things, I think you've just got to enjoy that journey a little bit and enjoy the fact that you're not trying to celebrate just the end goal. You need to enjoy the bit in the middle, because I think then if you get to that end goal, it doesn't mean anything if you've not really enjoyed the bit in the middle, because you're just looking for the next fix, if you know what I mean. So I think you have to 100% just trust the process and enjoy the bit in the middle, which you still struggle with now. You still
Day to day life
day to
gets
day
in the way,
life,
doesn't it?
it's still a challenge. But if I could give that advice to myself, it would be, yeah, just kind of back yourself and trust yourself. And
Be nice to yourself.
yeah, yeah,
So, really exciting earlier this year, it was announced that you joined the prosperity coaching team.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
tell me a bit more about that.
That was a really weird sort of moment, because I still recall now having conversations with Caris at the very, very beginning of Prosperity, and the first Zoom calls would have been put out in August, September of 2020. And I'd be watching people on those Zoom calls, like presenting deals and, sharing things they've done. And I'd be sat there going, oh, I want to share a deal one day. So then you get your first deal share. And then it's like, oh, you see people speaking at the event. It's like, oh, I'd love to do that one day. And then you do that. And it's almost like you're kind of ticking off these kind of milestones as you're going through, like, the experience that you're gaining. And then, like looking up to all of the coaches in there doing amazing things. And, I've had a coach since the beginning, Mike Almond, has been instrumental in helping me through, a lot of difficult moments and times. So I understand the value of having someone on your side who's been there and done it. So to then be asked if I would like to, because I'd always had a desire to do coaching and help people alongside what
It's
I'm
the
doing.
paying thing forward, isn't it, to people again,
Yeah,
to
yeah.
help.
I've always enjoyed doing that anyway, regardless. If people ask me a question, face to face, or, send a message, I'll always respond and I'll always try and help, or I'll pick up the phone and have a call with them. So to then be kind of asked to do it on a more formal basis was a bit of a, I kind of thought it would maybe come the year after. So it came earlier than I kind of expected, but it just felt like the next sort of natural step for me to take, just because I enjoy doing it so much. And I think in, I think in property, I think because things take so long, there are a lot of downtimes between things. Things could take, we've had one portfolio in legals now for 9 months. There can be a lot of downtime between things. So I kind of feed off other people's wins in between. So, like one of my coaching clients, messaged me, and I think he's been with me now for maybe 6 months, and kind of been teaching him the strategy that's helped me over the last few years. He's picked it up really quickly. And then when he messaged me saying, I've got a direct to vendor lead on this block of flats, how do I appraise it? So we went through it. How do I put my offer together? We went through it. He's put the offer in, he's got it accepted. So then I get a buzz from that. I feed off that as well. And that's also inspirational to me then to go, right, come on, you need to up your game again, because, it kind of pushes you along. So yeah, I really enjoy it. It's nice to help people out.
So where's 2026 going to take you? What's in the pipeline?
Ooh. Uh, well, I'm definitely not sat on a beach yet. So that's not happened. I think I spoke about it on a call a few weeks ago with in the Prosperity Network about the last 5 years has been all about like growth and scaling. And it's been like, particularly the last 3 years has been 3 years of in from my perspective, quite rapid growth. Just because of the strategy that I've used with buying the blocks of flats, it's enabled me to buy multiple units, so scale quite quickly with the volume of units. So with that comes the responsibility of managing those properties as well. So I've kind of got to a position where, particularly with what we're about to buy now in the next few weeks as well, it'll take it to a level where that's probably that is a full-time role then for a property manager, a lettings manager. Because I currently self-manage it, it's now the time to outsource that. And I've also kind of realized that whilst I've just been chasing growth, I've not really put any systems or processes in place. That's probably a lesson. That's probably something I would say to me 3 years ago is, whilst you've got a very small volume, whilst it doesn't feel like it's a value add because you're just chasing, buying property, spend, time, invest money into putting the right systems in place at that point, because you'll get to a level when you then need to put a system and a process in. And it's a lot more difficult when you've got a lot of stuff to then retrospectively put back in. So I think having systems and processes in place early on, and I think that's what 2026 will be, a year of. So we're currently in the process now of recruiting for a portfolio manager to come in full time and just fully take over all of the lettings and put in better systems and processes in place, so that that will then provide a platform for me to then go again to the kind of the next level of growth. So almost a bit of a consolidation year, kind of going back through the portfolio, putting proper maintenance plans in place, making sure everything that we've currently got is performing as well as it should be, putting all of the systems, processes in place, getting whatever people I need in. So obviously first and foremost will be the lettings manager, but then whatever else we feel is needed, and then it'll be to just kind of go again. So I think that's what next year will look like.
And you've got a lovely new office from which to do it.
Yeah, absolutely love it. Yeah, it's just a place to escape.
My
Yeah,
heart just
yeah.
this when I saw the
The
logo on
logo on
the
the wall.
wall.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
that's a proud
just
moment for me.
something redesigned
Yeah.
together 2-3 years ago. So yeah, it was bit of bit of a surreal moment, really. Kind of, you look back to 5 years ago when I was sat January the 1st, sat at my desk with a laptop, not knowing what to do, to then 5 years down the line, having had some reasonable levels of success, and to then have your own office space. And they're just like milestone moments. I think it was needed as well. I think because working from home, working, from your spare bedroom or whatever it is you've got, whatever your setup is, I think it's great. And I think that's perfectly fine for when you're starting out. But I personally value having a place of work to go to, having that physical separation of, I'm now leaving the house, I'm going to work. So when I'm there, it's work. And when I leave, I have noticed already in, the 1 or 2 months that I've had it, that I kind of come home and I feel like I've left work there. Well, I've still got my phone and it's still there, but I don't feel like the laptop's upstairs. I need to run upstairs and
Carpet slippers on.
yeah, it's there's a physical separation, and then there's other benefits. Obviously it adds another layer of kind of professionalism to what you're doing. So when people are looking at you, it's nice to be able for people to be able to come to you, and you can have meetings in your own space, and then just physically being present somewhere, on a business park where you're surrounded by other businesses opens up opportunities that you just don't know were there before. Speaking to people that you wouldn't normally speak to. So yeah, it's been a great move, I think, for me, and something, that having a coach was instrumental in that, because I've ummed and ahed about it, but having the coach there to say, no, now's the time, come on, you need to do it. And I'm very much if I'm told to do something, probably comes back to the being employed for 17 years, you get told what to do. So having that coach there who says it's a good move, I think you need to do it, to just give you that nudge, and then went and got the space. So yeah, it's been a good move. I'm just really enjoying the space I've got. Yeah.
Amazing. If you weren't doing property now, what do you think you'd be doing
Ooh, I've never even thought about that.
in an alternate universe?
Yeah.
Assuming that you'd still taken
Still
redundancy.
taking redundancy.
Yeah.
Thought about that, but probably think sort of having learned what I've learned over the last few years. I'm definitely a people person. I like being around people. I like talking to people. I love helping people. So I think it would probably be something that kind of encompassed, and I don't know what that would be, whether it is still some kind of coaching role, but if I hadn't been doing property, I wouldn't have any value to add from a coaching perspective. So I don't fully know, but I think it would definitely be something that kind of worked around people and helping people. Difficult one, that. I've never even thought about
It's a
that.
funny
Yeah,
one,
because I
isn't
kind
it?
of gone
Yeah.
straight from employment straight to property. I've never even
You can walk
considered
in the middle of
anything
the
else.
night.
Yeah.
And you go, oh my God, it was this. I've
Yeah.
had my light bulb moment.
Yeah, because when I was working in Airbus, and it was a fantastic company to work for, it gave me such amazing times over 17 years. I did my apprenticeship there, I worked abroad for 7 years, made amazing friends for life that I still have now. Yeah, but I always felt like there was something else that I wanted to do. I didn't quite know what it was. Property was always like, oh, I'd like to get into property because you can make loads of money, and like most people, have that kind of ambition. But yeah, I always felt like there was something else that I wanted to do, and I just hadn't figured it out. And then this was just the opportunity that came up with COVID, with stumbling on the free Zoom calls and always having an interest in property. It just kind of went down that path. But yeah, interesting question. I've never been asked that and never thought about it. But yeah, definitely something with people and helping people, I think.
Yeah. So, on one final note,
Mm.
what piece of golden advice would you give to somebody who's just starting in property?
Definitely surround yourself with the right people, because it is a lonely place on your own. You'll have so much self-doubt. You can have money behind you or wherever your starting position is, but unless you've got the knowledge of how to apply things, you'll really struggle, both with the physical buying and selling and the mental side of it as well. So definitely getting around people, whatever that looks like, and whether it's a network or just having one-to-ones with somebody who's already doing it. I think that's critical. I think, like we said before, just kind of lower your expectations a little bit in terms of how long you think it will take to get to where you want to be. I had visions of, I'd replace my salary within 12 months, 18 months. And, the reality is I was nowhere near that, which is why I kind of pivoted and changed strategy a little bit to what I'm doing now, because that helped with the scale. But yeah, allow yourself more time than you think. Don't feel like you have to just quit your job to go into property. It can be a transition. You can do it alongside your job. I was different in a sense that there was redundancy there, so I had a little bit of a redundancy payout, which enabled me to pay myself a bit of a basic wage. So there wasn't that immediate cut of no income. So don't feel like you have to just quit your job and go full steam into property. It can be a transition. Yeah, I think that's probably, they would probably be my sort of top tips. But yeah, number one, we get around the right people.
Thank you so much for coming here today and sharing your
Thanks.
experiences. It's been really, I love this.
Yeah.
So more and more
I
fun
think I've said
chatting
before,
to
I
you.
don't think I've ever done a podcast. I don't recall doing one. So
Yeah.
this is the first one. Yeah. And yeah, I've really enjoyed it. So thank you for having me.
Thank you, Greg.
Thank you.